Hello and welcome to the show. It was Michelle Obama who once said, we tend to glamorize marriage, while the reality is marriage is hard. And my guests today say it is important. Couples have the proper communication and finance skills they need to sustain a healthy and successful marriage. Margo and Antonio Taylor are relationship coaches and the founders of the Love Rekindled Couples Retreat. I love that. And also in the conversation today is financial advisor, Dr. Nicole Garner Scott. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
A combination of the things that I feel like are absolutely so important: the love, the communication, and the money, right?
Yes.
Because so many divorces fall apart over those things falling apart.
Correct.
Yes.
Let's talk first about the work that you do with Love Rekindled.
Well, the Love Rekindled was birthed from my husband, Antonio. We had a conversation one night and he had told me that, he was like, we need to build a community for married couples, people who are in committed relationships.
And you've been married for how long now?
It'll be 10 years in May.
Got it.
Yes,
Okay,
10
so you know what
years.
you're talking about.
Yes,
Yes,
yes. And so we've always done things with couples, always had a love and passion to help couples. And so when he brought the idea to me, I was like, okay, let's do it. Let's do a couples retreat and just take it to another level.
But I love a good love story. How did you two meet?
Well, Antonio and I previously were both cops. So one day my field training officer was out of town and she sent me over to another field training officer, which happens to be Antonio. So meeting him, the first day, of course, I was like 15, 20 minutes late for work and was really stressed out because I got lost, but had the opportunity to meet him. He was an amazing, amazing cop, trained me very well, and we remained friends throughout the time.
Wow. But at some point, the law enforcement turned into love enforcement. How'd that happen?
Yes, so we was actually friends for about 2 years. Good friends for about
That's
2
the
years.
story right there.
Yeah, we was good friends for about 2 years. And after, I think she always liked me, but she
Did
never,
you? She did. Because she did the eyes. I know what I see. She did. Go ahead.
But after 2 years of a solid friendship, we decided to take our relationship to another level, and
Yeah.
and we did. And it's been great. It's been great, Portia.
Clearly. And Dr. Nicole Garner Scott, I want to bring you into this conversation because so much of this too, the love is important, but being able to talk about these finances, you say and we all know that is one of the biggest issues that comes up in a marriage.
Very true. Very true. And also, I would say we don't have a lot of models of seeing previous generations discuss finances in that way in their marriages, in the home. So a lot of this is still very new. These are new conversations coming to the table. And I applaud just their level of communication and openness. That's usually the beginning. But many of us have past trauma of not talking about this, not discussing this. This is something that you keep to yourself and figure out yourself. You may have saw your father do that or your grandfather do that. And that generationally passes down just like generational wealth.
Right. So sometimes there aren't conversations about the debt or the finances or some financial trouble someone may have gotten into or maybe even overspending. And you kind of feel like, oh, I don't want my partner to be mad, right? And then
We like
it
to
turns
call them the tough conversations.
Yeah.
No one wants to have the tough conversations.
Right. And those are the most important ones to be able to have. And learning, right, how to critique instead of crush in those conversations.
Yeah. And being able to receive the critique.
How important is that? And how do you talk to people about that?
A lot of times as couples, we're able to dish it out, right? I'm able to tell my spouse the things that I don't like or the things that I want him to correct. But ultimately, it's important to listen and be able to hear their point of view because that is communication.
Right.
And so I think a lot of times in marriages, we don't have that down pack. And so we're missing the mark. We're missing the mark with being present. We're missing the mark with definitely bridging the gap in the relationship and the marriage.
But like you initially said, Portia, it's hard. It's hard. Marriage is hard and it takes work. Because I remember early on in our marriage, Margo say, I need to talk to you. Margo was always okay with tough conversations. And every time I say, we need to have a talk, I always say, what have I done?
What have I done?
What have I done this time? And so like once you master the tough conversation and just understand it's a safe space to have it and you guys are teammates, it just makes it work.
Yeah.
And you gotta have the tough conversations.
And I want to come back to this conversation about the finances, but just quickly, let's talk about what you do in the retreat, the rekindling part.
Great. So I think the main thing we do, we have mastered the art of allowing the couples to get a weekend getaway while getting tools to learn how to communicate, and also while finding your village of people. So we put a lot of people in the room together that are like-minded, that going through some of the same thing, and everybody end up helping each other, and they also end up developing a relationship outside of the retreat, which is the most thing we're most proud of.
I don't want to put you on the hot seat, but is it harder for the fellas to sort of get comfortable? Like, we're used to sort of getting and,
Yes.
communicating and communicating. Yeah. But
Correct.
is it harder for the fellas to start opening up in
So
those
the
settings?
biggest misconception is that you're going to sit around and air your dirty laundry. That is not what the couple retreat is about. And funny enough, it is hard to get dudes to agree because they think they're going to be on a hot seat. But the reality of it is, going into the retreat, guys, we actually had the best benefit of it. And all the guys that went, they will attest to this, because we got to see, with all respect, baby, we got to see how controlling our wives can be at times. And they got held accountable.
Her eyes say so much. I love it. Right? Like, that did come up.
So they got held accountable in the couple retreats, which was a good thing.
And how much of these conversations would you like to make sure that people are talking about? And you just cover finances, talking about the hard part of money.
I feel like people feel that having these hard conversations are not romantic, or it takes away from the love of the relationship. But in its truest essence, it's the most romantic, because when you have these conversations, you're saying, I want to continue a strong future with you. And what could be more romantic than really saying, we're not in it just for today, we're in it for generations ahead of us. And that's showing that level of true love for the long term with each other. There was a part that you mentioned that I wanted to piggyback on in regards to that communication, but not knowing triggers in your spouse too. So we think of past traumas from a mental health standpoint, but there is financial PTSD, there's financial trauma, there's understanding how you relate to money that forms in your childhood and carries on to your adulthood.
All very important issues that we talk about when we're talking about strengthening a marriage. Good start to a great conversation, and it's just going to continue. Up next, you're going to meet Demetrius and Shay Lynn Dixon. They say they felt stagnant in their marriage and really needed a spark. They're going to talk about what they did to rekindle their love when we return. And trust me, I'm all ears. Love these love stories. We'll be right back.